Hey ho, everybody. Welcome back to another Saturday Anything Goes series. And today, I know that the last time we got together, I told you there's a few stamp sets in the catalog that I just absolutely fell in love with, and Very Versailles was probably the first one. But the second one is the stamp set that we're going to be using tonight. The reason I have this graphic page out is for my wedding. I use pink and purple as my colors and orchids as my flowers. So it should come as no surprise to those that know me that, ta-da, this is my second favorite stamp set in the entire catalog. And it's the Rare Blessings one. Hang on, I got to put this down. Oh, don't want to drop it. So, of course, I fell in love with it because, hello, orchids, right? And I could not wait to get this. I saved it for my second go round of ordering because I knew that everybody would want to see the bundles before we got down to single stamp sets. But tonight, we're going to use this three different ways. One of the things I learned at one of our on stages was that there are various categories of crafters. And I don't remember the exact terms they use, so we'll just go with a beginner crafter who perhaps only has a few stamps, a few ink pads, and a few stamp sets. And then you have what I call your casual crafter who likes to craft, maybe doesn't do it all the time, but has invested in getting not only stamps, ink, and paper, but designer paper, maybe a big shot to do die cuts. So we'll also look at making a card that would be suitable for that group of people. And then the third group is probably what most of us are. We are avid crafters. We just can't go through a week or sometimes even a day without sitting down at our crafting table. And so we want to have it all. We want all the stamps, all the inks, all of the tools, the big shop, the stamparatus, you name it, we're going to get it because that is what brings us joy as a hobby or even as a business. So we're going to make three different cards tonight. I don't know why I've gotten on this kick of making multiple cards, but I did want to show you how it's very easy to take a card from simple to very involved, let's say. So that's what we're going to do, and we'll do it with this stamp set. Now, one thing I noticed, you know me, and I love my distinctive stamps. If you haven't heard of distinctive stamps before, they are stamps that you ink up once, and when you apply it to paper, you get all kinds of different tones of the color that you use. So it has a lot of depth to it. Well, look at this stamp right here. Even though this set is not labeled as a distinctive set, I'm telling you, that one is a distinctive stamp. And if we have time, we'll take a look at it. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now, the blocks recommended for this, I have the B, I have the C. Do I have the E block for this gymongous image? No, I don't. So I'm just going to bring in my stamparatus because, you know, as an avid crafter, I have one. And we'll just pretend for the other categories that we are using a block that would fit this, which is the E block. Okay, so let me bring in my project box because I keep everything sorted here. And we'll start with our simpler card. And the ink that we're going to use on this one, I think we'll just use Rococo Rose. That tends to be a favorite of people. It's neither really light or really dark. It's kind of a mid-tonal color. And I think that since we're only going to be using that one color, that's a good one to start with. So let me take out, we're going to use the same image for all of them, which is this absolutely beautiful orchid. And this thing is so, so big. I mean, let me just tell you how big it is. From the top to the bottom, it's 4 inches. At the widest part, it is 3 inches. So, yep, this is a big one. If you want to make a dramatic card with not a lot of time, this will be a good one for you. And I'm bringing in our very vanilla note cards and envelopes because probably a person who does not stamp all the time, who's just getting started, would go with our set of note cards and envelopes. So I will put this down in the corner and lay my stamp down. I do want to leave a little bit of room here to put a sentiment on. So let's see what we can do there. How about This Day Is Yours? That one actually, that one or It's Your Time to Bloom, I think are going to be the narrowest ones. And since our note cards and envelopes are just a bit narrower than we're used to working with when we cut our cardstock to be A2 cards, I think I'm going to be able to get it in there. Okay, so I'm going to leave my orchid stamp right there. And let me put this underneath. Because remember, if you're using your Stamparatus and you don't have something supporting your plate, it may not ink up as well. All right, so I'll bring out my Rococo Rose, which is one of our new in colors. I want to just ink this up well. We're going to leave it full strength, and let's give her a whirl. Because this is a really big stamp, you want to make sure that you give it even pressure all the way around to transfer that ink. Look at how pretty that is. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Love, love, love it. So let me, excuse me guys, I got a little tickle in my throat. Pollen count's been terrible here. All right, just want to clean that off because we're going to flip our plate around, and that way we can put our sentiment on there, which is right here. Let me hold this down. And yep, I think we're going to be able to get it right in there. Pardon my head if it gets in the way. Just trying to line this up. All right. And now, before I stamp this down, because I just put the labels on these last night, I haven't tested them to make sure I got them on straight. I'm just going to ink this up real quick and see if I did indeed get the sentiment straight. Oh, not even. Look at that. Whew. I am so glad I did not ink that up right away. Hello, Jean. Hi, Roz. Thanks, ladies, for joining. So let's see. This is just hanging up in the air. So we need to reposition that down a little bit. How about right there? Is that going to work with my card? Yep, it's going to work with my card. All right, do we trust it to move forward? Should I test it again, do you think? I get very nervous when I'm stamping straight on. I'm going to test it again. Never hurts to be sure. And it's still crooked as all get out. Okay. So what do I do about that? Well, remember your Stamparatus plates have grid lines on them. So I'm just going to hold mine up. Oh my goodness, I see exactly where I'm going wrong. So if that's the top, that still doesn't look right, but we'll give it a whirl. I think it needs to come down a little bit more. All right, now let's make sure it works. Well, folks, I'm going with it. Keep your fingers crossed. All right, not bad at all. So that simple, we have our first card done. So if all you have is paper and a few inks and stamps, you still can create really lovely, lovely cards. Now, it wouldn't be a card that's finished if we don't decorate the envelope as well. And I'm going to do two things to this. I'm going to bring in, there's this lovely little floral stamp here. So why don't we use that real quick? I mean, that's what they're for, right? Okay. And I am going to put this one right down here in the corner. That way, even if I mail this, I still have plenty of room for the address. Let's put it here. Come on. Ooh, we can even, let's put it kind of up there. I like the way that looks. Okay. And if it looks like it's getting too close to the bottom, just scooch up the envelope. But I think we're going to go with that. And again, I'm going to do this full strength. And there we go. We have a decorated envelope to go along with our note card. So that's simple, with just the Rococo Rose on very vanilla note card and envelope. We have our first one ready to go. Pollen counts are high where you are too, Roz. Ooh. I love summer, but I don't love the pollen. Oh, you got your grandson again? I am super jealous. All right. Now that we've finished with talking about our new stamper, who doesn't have a lot of supplies, but, you know, likes to play around with them, the Rare Blessings is great. And that's because there's one huge image that really takes up enough space on the card that you don't have to worry about doing too much more. All right, I'll put that one aside and let's talk about our second one. Let's get into our person who likes to craft, loves to make cards, busy person, doesn't really have a lot of time to do them, but is gradually building up his or her inventory of inks and stamps and tools. So this person most likely has some ribbon, and look at this beautiful ribbon. That is, let me see if I can bring it closer. That is the Purple Posy in color ribbon. It has this gorgeous linen, like a beige linen, stripped down the middle, and it's the Purple Posy is scalloped. I love that. All right, so we're going to use purple. I'm in kind of a purple mood today. So I'll start with an A2 card. So it's 4 1/4 by 11, scored and folded at 5 1/2. And no, I did not emboss this. You want to know how I got this? Sometimes, if you don't always haven't built up your stash of embossing folders, you can actually use your scoring pal to do simple designs like this. All I did was stick this in, and at 1/4 inch increments, I scored the entire top. And that's going to give me just enough interest for in back of our main design panel. So we're going to use that, and I'll put that aside for right now. And I have a piece for the inside. We'll put that aside. And because I know I told you that our stamped image was 3 by 4 1/4, I know what size my design panel needs to be. So I've gone ahead and cut that. And then I've cut a mat of Highland Heather that is just like 1/8 of an inch bigger than my design panel. And the reason I chose the Highland Heather is if I chose to mat this with more of the Purple Posy, well, you wouldn't really be able to see it because we have a Purple Posy card base. So I think you're going to like how that looks. But let's go ahead and get to stamping. For this one, I'm going to ink the orchid in Smoky Slate. And I'm doing that because we're going to color in the orchids using a blender pen and our inks from our stamp pads. And the Smoky Slate is just light enough to give a nice outline without being overpowering. Oh, and pooh, look what I did. Didn't have that right. Luckily, there's two sides to paper. I forgot I'd move this one up to accommodate the sentiment on our note card. But no worries. We'll just put this one down right like so. A little bit more. There we go. Let's try that again. Okay. And again, I'm just giving it some firm, even pressure. I'm not pushing down hard. And I think I want it just a little bit darker than that. Not a lot, but I'll give it a light re-inking. And just make sure. I want you to be able to see the outline, but I didn't want it in black because then that's all we would really see. Okay, so we'll clean this off. And now let's get to coloring stuff in. So I've got my blender pen ready. Let me just get rid of this. And since we are working with purples, I am going to bring in Highland Heather and Purple Posy. And then I'm also going to bring in Old Olive for my leaves. And I like to start at the bottom first, so I'm going with the Old Olive. Let's see if I can get it in the lid there. If you ever have trouble getting the ink into the lid so that you can use it like I am, let me show you what I do. I take a block, and there, I've got plenty of ink. Just a little tip. So I've got my blender pen. Just pick up some of this, and we'll go in. Actually, I need to take it off this because there's a ridge there. Can't get to the flower. So move that aside because I really want you to be able to see this. So you're just going to go in and lay in some color. And if you've looked at orchids, many of them have these really dark, glossy leaves. So even laying in that color a little bit thick, I'm not too worried about. It's still going to resemble the actual leaves. And what I'm doing to get a lighter color, because I'd already pulled a bunch of color off this one spot, I'm just going back to that one spot. And that way I get a bit of a lighter color. If I want darker, I will move further out on the block where I haven't already put my blender pen in there. Like I'm starting to get not enough ink there. So we'll just pull down some more. Don't be afraid to rotate your design panel so you can get it going in the right direction here and not miss anything. But as you can see, it's pretty darn easy to lay in that color quickly. And then we don't want to forget about our stem. And I want it to be light, so I went back to the area where I've already pulled most of the color off. All right, so that quickly, we have colored our leaves. All right, let me get a piece of scratch paper here to clean off my blender pen. You want to make sure you don't carry over any ink. And then let's go into our purples. This is where we're going to have some fun. I'll see if I can squeeze any in the lid here, because I know people, that's what they prefer to do. So I've got a little, but I think I need more because we're going to lay down our purple posy first. Two of your grandkids visiting from Seattle. Nice, nice. My sister used to live in Seattle. I think my niece and her kids still do. Okay. So for this, I'm just going to pick up color and very loosely we're going to lay it down. And we don't care if it's darker in some areas and lighter in others, because we're going to come back in and put in some highlights and shadows. We just want to get a base coat down. Remember, this isn't like the blends where you can blend one color into another, but you can still go in and add some shadows. Now I may need to squeeze my pad again. But I just want to, without thinking too much about it, because I tend to do much better if I'm not spending a lot of time thinking about where I'm putting my color down. Let me squeeze a little bit more. Well, come on. Get my hand exercises done this way. There we go. That's a goodly amount. And remember, when you're working with color and you don't want it too dark, you can just scrub a little bit of it off. Perfect. All right, so we're almost done with our base coat here. And you might think these are leaves at the very end right here, but they are actually little buds. If you've had an orchid, you know that these are the last ones that bloom. All right, I'm pretty happy with that. So let me clean off my blender pen. And now we're going to go into our darker purple, which is our Highland Heather. So I do want a lot of color with my Highland Heather, and let me show you why. The throat of an orchid, let me bring, I have a silk one here. The throat, which is these three long petals here, tends to be darker than the rest of the flower. It can even be a different color than the rest of the flower. I'm going to stick with the purples, but I want my Highland Heather to be pretty strong so that you can see the throats. And I just think it's so pretty when you can get some nice strong color in there. Really helps it stand out and look even more like an orchid. Okay, just a couple more. I might even make my buds look a little darker towards the bases. All right, so we've got that. Now I'm going to thin out my Highland Heather a little bit because I do want to put some shadows in. So I'll just lay in, like my back petal probably be a little darker, where the petals overlap would be a little darker, and you even have these beautiful striations already laid down for you by the stamp that you can go in and draw again. So just kind of following the lines as you see them. Okay, I'm just going to quickly do these. Don't spend a lot of time because you really want it to look natural, and Mother Nature is not good with straight lines. You will usually see curvy lines and swirly lines, anything but straight lines. All right, couple more. There we go. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, now that we finished that, what else are we going to do? Well, first, let me clean off my blender pen there. Always remember to put your caps back on so they don't dry out. So we'll bring back in the pieces and parts. That goes on the inside. Now, by using that Highland Heather for shadows and then using a Highland Heather matte, look at how pretty that is. They really complement each other. All right, the question is, before I lay this down, do I want to try stamping my sentiment directly on this, or do I want to do it on a separate sentiment strip? Well, let's see what might fit there first, because oftentimes that'll tell me if I need to do a separate strip. So that's definitely not going to fit. What about this one? Nope, that won't fit either. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to end up doing a sentiment strip. So let's go ahead and just use some liquid glue to, glue this to the mat. Come on. There we go. And I think I'm going to pop this up for a little extra added dimension. But let's look at how we can do a sentiment. So let me bring in my scraps. Do I have any scraps? Probably going to have to cut, because all my scraps I think are too thin. So let's see. For the other one, we used, I have it here somewhere. See what happens when I lay things down and don't pick them back up. So of course I can't find it, so let's just pick another one. And what I'm trying to do is figure out, I don't mind if I cover that leaf up a little bit. I just want to make sure that I have time, or not time, but space to put the whole sentiment in. That one I think is a little bit too tall. This one I think is going to go well. I'm liking that. So let me get a block here and a piece of paper. And I'm going to stick with purples for the sentiment. I'm going to choose the Highland Heather. Hello, Miss Weenie. She's down at my feet. Wanted to come in and say hey to y'all. All right. I'm just going to stamp that right there. Looks pretty good. And then let's see, which punch do I want to use for that? Because, you know, punches are always easier than having to die cut it. But you know what? I'm thinking all the punches that I have are going to be, my circle punches are going to be way too small. Yep. So we're going to have to die cut it. But that's okay. It won't take us long. I'm bringing out my stitched rectangles. You know I love them. And I think there'll be one that's good for this. It would almost fit in a square though. But let's just see. Let's see if it will. Oh, it will just fit in there. So I could do that, or if I bring in my stitch shapes, which I meant to have all these out, but I forgot. So let's look at our stitch shapes. Because I'm thinking a circle might be in order. Let's see what we've got in the way of a square. It's probably going to be the square. I'm just going to stick with the rectangle. Yep, that's what I'm going with. All right, let me just cut this piece off so that we're not trying to put that whole piece through. And remember, with any of your dies that have a 90-degree angle, you don't want to put it through with that long edge at the top. Once you get this set, you want to angle it so that it picks up a corner to help pull it through. But let me just get this on there straight. A little bit of washi tape will help hold it there. I never throw out retired washi tape because you just always need it. All right. Are we thinking that's going to work right there? I'm thinking that's going to work right there. Excuse me if the camera shakes here. Not too bad. I love stitch shapes. They just really add that extra something. All right, so this is going to go right there. I'm not going to mat it because that's going to take up just even more space. What I will do is sponge it with, do I want the Highland Heather? I'm going to sponge it with the Purple Posy. I don't want it to be dark, dark. I just want to have a little color there. Let me bring out one of my sponges here. And just sponging so that there's a definite line of color. So it doesn't take a lot, but it makes a difference. Okay, that's done. Let's put this together. Oh my goodness, I have so much stuff. Get over there. So we're going to pop this up, we said. Dimensionals are right here. And since I have it backed with the Whisper White, backed with our cardstock is just such a nice weight, I don't have to put dimensionals all over the thing so that it won't sag. I am going to put it in the four corners and in the middle. And that should be plenty. All right. Make sure I've got it. And again, pardon my head. I'm going to pull this up just a little bit so I have room for my sentiment. Lay that down. Yep, I like it right there. And then our sentiment will go right there. So I'm going to put dimensionals this corner, this corner, this corner, and then I'll just straight glue down that corner. And that way we don't have to worry about it buckling. Probably could have just even used the minis for that. And I need one here. I ordered dimensionals, but forgot to order the mini ones. All right, so a little bit of glue in this upper corner. Right there. And then I want there to be just enough space on either side. There we go. And we probably should put just a couple embellishments on, right? Let's bring in our little rhinestones. And I'll get my take your pick tool because I always have that spatula end right there. I love it for picking up rhinestones. Okay, what are you doing? There we go. So I think I'm just going to put one here. I'm not going to go overboard with it, but I just want a little bit of sparkle. And let's do one down here and one more for good measure. Oh, crikey, my fingers are just as good as picking these up, right? So we'll put one right there. And that way we have kind of a triangular shape. All right, so we've got the front of our card. How are we doing for time? Not bad. So just real quick, we've got the inside of our card. And I usually don't put a sentiment on the inside until I know who it's going to and for what occasion. But I am just going to stamp a little something, something. So we'll use our flower again. And I'm going to do it in the purple posy because I want it to be nice and light. And I think I may even stamp it off. So where'd my paper go? Let's see. Yep, I'm going to stamp it off. I know you guys can't see it because I've got stuff stamped all over this, but just want to put a couple little ones just to add a nice touch. Let's see, got one like that. We'll put one up here. All right, and then when I know who I'm sending it to, I can pop a sentiment in the middle and it'll be ready to go. So there's that card done. Now we've only got one more to do, and I am, and probably you all are as well, I'm a pretty avid stamper. I'm not happy if I'm not getting in here and getting my hands inky. So I thought we had to have a card that would let us have everything in there. I just have to find it here. Did I leave it in my, yes I did. So here we are going to use, and some of it I've already done ahead of time, just because, I don't know about you, but when I really get started on making a card that has everything I want in it, it takes me a while. What I did was I heat embossed the orchid image and used gold embossing powder. Isn't that beautiful? I just loved the way that came out. Hello, Sandy. Good to see you on. So there are a couple reasons why I like doing this. A, it really steps it up in elegance factor. B, I use my blends to color, and so the embossing helped me keep the colors where I wanted them. So if you notice, I don't have a ton of bleeding outside of the lines. I also used my stitch rectangle die for this, just because, again, elegance factor, right? Well, then I thought, okay, what card base am I going to use? I'm going to use Rococo Rose. Now, the colors I used, the blends that I used for this were Flirty Flamingo. Let me bring this in here. Dark. I used the light Flirty Flamingo. And then for the throats, I used my dark rich raspberry. And they just really worked well together. It really helped the throat stand out. All right, so I know I'm going to have this, I'm going to have this. I need a matte, but I don't want just a plain old matte. I went into our DSP and I looked at the colors and checked to see which DSP had Flirty Flamingo in it, and it ended up being the Perennial Essence, and you can see the Flirty Flamingo here. We're not going to see a whole bunch of it, but I wanted to add just a little bit of drama to our elegance. So the blues and the pinks really are a nice backdrop for this. So that's going to be our mat. And I thought about just laying it down like this, but I thought, you know, needs a little something, something. So I chose the Rococo Rose. This is our in color DSP that comes in the 6x6. And I absolutely love it. And I had a hard time figuring, do I want this side? Do I want this side? I finally decided to go with this side. So how am I going to put this together? Oh, by the way, I also die cut. Don't know if you'll remember these, but these are from our Dashing Deer holiday stamp set that carried over into the annual catalog. So these are the dies that went with it. I love these. Again, elegance, yeah. All right, so let's quickly put this together. So my mat is as big as my card base. So it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Makes it easy to get it on there straight. Just like that. Okay, now, do I want to, I am going to pop this up. Here was the conundrum. If I put these right here, and these are champagne, they're not gold. And the reason I didn't pick gold is because when I held up gold to it, it just completely took away from the flowers. So the gold on the flowers, I wanted that to be the only gold. But when I used the champagne right on the edges of this, it interfered with my image. So here's what I decided to do. I'm going to pop this up with dimensionals. And we're going to use those little corner cutouts on the DSP itself, but I'm going to put them at such a way that just a tiny, tiny bit shows through. That's why I'm popping up this panel. It rides above where I'm going to be gluing down the corner cuts. All right, so my corner cuts, I'm going to straight glue this down, and then we'll put those where they need to go. Ooh, Winnie, thunder, thunder. It's okay, baby. Poor baby. First she had to deal with fireworks. Then there was a thunderstorm last night. Now there's another thunderstorm. And she just does not like thunderstorms. All right, so this is going down right like that. Make sure I have it straight. Could have pulled it a little bit more that way. Come on. All right, so this is what I'm going to do, because I know it's hard to visualize. I'm going to put these here, but far enough off that when I put this down, you're just able to see them peeking out. Cool, huh? And see if I can do this without making a big mess. You know what? I'm just going to bring in my silicone mat. That's the easiest way when you have delicate pieces. Just glue, put a glob of glue on there. Bring in your sponge, and I do have one that's all gunky right here. And just pick up the glue and dab it all over. Okay, so we've got that one. And I want it, like I said, just a bit off of that mat, just so some of it's going to show up. Stick. All right. Now we'll do the next one, which is going to go right here. Boy, I didn't do a very good job of getting all these out. A little more glue. All right, here we go, folks. Can't believe that summer's like half over already. I just don't know where this year is gone. Okay, so hanging off, half on, half off. Just like that. All right, now I can take our design panel and it will sit just like that. Isn't that pretty? I just love it. Now, the only other thing I was thinking is we do have ribbon. And let's see, I have somewhere, I had cut a piece of this. And I thought about putting the Rococo Rose on here. But with that bow, I think it's too much. Even if I didn't have the bow, that beige to me kind of takes away from the rest of the card. So I decided to leave it off. But you certainly could put some ribbon on there. Ooh, that might work well on our second card that we did. We could have put ribbon on that. All right, so here we go. I'm just going to lay this down very gently, making sure that I can adjust it if I need to. So I haven't told it to stick, which is a good thing because I'm a wee bit crooked. Come on, let go my ankle. There we go. So we'll just pull it that way a wee bit. All right. And there we have that. Now, do we want to try and put a sentiment on the front? I'm going to say no. There is so much going on with this card that to add one more thing to it, I think will make it too busy. So there are times when I don't put a sentiment on the front of my card and I just put it on the inside. And this is going to be one of those cards. I just really want the recipient to zoom in on that orchid. We can, however, put some of our embellishments down. And these are the in color enamel, faceted enamel dots. Oh, but you know what? They look awfully big. I don't think I want to do that. Yep, I don't have any of the small ones left. I love them so much, I just use them up. So let me see, I think I've got one other thing that we might be able to use. Because since I colored that in with blends, let's color some pearls in. That always looks beautiful. And that way we know they will match the card exactly. So I'm going to say I don't want it in the rich raspberry. I'm going to keep it with the dark flirty flamingo. And if you've never colored in pearls before, it's super easy. You just want to always use your brush tip and then pick whatever size. And I think little ones are going to be good. And just go around making sure that you get all the way around the sides. So that's why you're seeing some of the ink show up on the backing there. And you can give it however many coats you want. It only takes a moment to dry. And then we can put them where we want. Oh, I like that. I like that. So it's some beautiful color without just really being in your face. Okay, so we've got our 3 cards done. Let me scooch some of this stuff out of the way so I can bring them all in. So we started out with our beginner and progressed on to our casual crafter, and then we have finished up with our avid crafter. What do you guys think? I love those colors too. Especially, I'm saying, it took me a while, but I'm saying that Rococo Rose is probably going to be my favorite in color this year. Thank you, Roz. All right. Well, that's what I wanted to go in through today. So if you have any questions at all about how I made any of these cards, just leave me a comment below and I'll be happy to get back with you. I will return you to your regularly scheduled weekend programming, and we'll see you next Saturday. Good night, y'all.